Humanity had dreamed about meeting aliens for centuries. Books, movies, and scientific discussions had filled people's minds with hope and excitement. So when the first real chance finally arrived, the whole world watched with breathless anticipation. The ship called Astronine was chosen as Earth's first official ambassador vessel, carrying scientists, diplomats, and peace specialists. Their mission was not to fight, not to threaten, but to introduce humanity to the wider galaxy with respect and open hands. Captain Rehan Malik, a calm, thoughtful man known for solving conflicts without violence, stood at the center of this historic moment. For weeks, the crew had trained on how to greet aliens politely, how to read unknown gestures, how to handle misunderstandings. Everyone believed this mission would show the universe that humans were ready to join the interstellar community as peaceful explorers. The world expected celebration, maybe even friendship, but what they found on the other side of deep space was nothing anyone on Earth could have imagined. The Astronine arrived at the border of the Zelleran sector, a region known from faint signals and old probes. Humanity knew very little about the species living there. Still, they hoped curiosity would open doors. As the ship crossed into alien space, Captain Rehan sent out a calm, friendly message. It was translated into every known frequency. "We come in peace, wishing to establish communication." Minutes passed. The crew stood waiting. On Earth, millions watched the live transmission with excitement. Then, a strange silence. No greeting, no response, not even a warning. Just empty static floating across space. Inside the command room of tension quietly grew. Dr. Elena Torres, the lead xenolinguist, adjusted her headset and tried again. Repeating message. "We come peacefully. We wish to talk." Again, nothing. Some crew members whispered nervously. Maybe the aliens didn't understand. Maybe the translation technology wasn't perfect. Or maybe, they thought, the aliens simply didn't care to answer. Captain Rehan remained calm, though a cold feeling began to settle in his stomach. Silence in space was rarely a good sign. Then, without warning, the sensors on Astronine lit up with red indicators. Multiple fast-moving objects appeared on the radar. They were approaching at speeds far greater than human technology could reach. The crew looked at each other, confused and frightened. No introduction, no communication, just ships closing in like predators circling prey. "Open visual," Captain Rehan ordered quietly. The screen filled with the sight of 3 Zelleran warships. Their designs were sharp, dark, and built for attack. Their engines pulsed a hostile red glow. Even someone with no military training could tell these ships were not here for conversation. "Send peaceful signal again," Rehan instructed, still hoping this could be a misunderstanding. But before his message even finished broadcasting, the alien ships fired. The first blast hit the side of Astronine, throwing crew members off their feet. Alarms screamed through the corridors. Panels burst into sparks. The live camera broadcasting to Earth trembled violently. The audience watching on Earth gasped in horror, unsure if this was real or some kind of malfunction, but it was very real. Inside the ship, chaos erupted. Scientists who had spent their lives studying peaceful theories now found themselves crawling through smoke-filled hallways. Diplomats who had practiced polite greetings were suddenly gripping safety rails as explosions echoed around them. Dr. Elena Torres felt the ship twist under her feet as another blast tore through the hull. Captain Rehan tried sending emergency messages, shouting over the noise, "We are unarmed. We are peaceful. Cease fire." But the only answer was another hit, harder than the last. In less than 2 minutes, the Zelleran ships had disabled Earth's first ambassador vessel. Clamps extended from the alien warships, locking onto Astronine like a trap closing on an animal. The ship was pulled forcibly toward the alien fleet. Some crew members screamed as the lights flickered. Others sat in shock, unable to understand why their peaceful mission had turned into a nightmare. Earth watched helplessly. The broadcast, still active, showed flames, smoke, and terrified faces. Then the screen went black. Back on Earth, panic spread instantly. Networks replayed the last image again and again. Politicians demanded answers. Scientists were speechless. The public cried out in anger and fear. Everyone had believed that humanity's first contact would be through diplomacy, not an unprovoked attack. For the first time, the world saw that the galaxy might not be full of friends. There were dangers out there, real, cruel dangers. Inside the damaged Astronine, the surviving crew were rounded up by Zelleran soldiers, taken prisoner at gunpoint. These aliens were tall, with solid, armor-like skin and cold, emotionless eyes. They did not speak. They did not explain. They simply took the humans as if capturing a wild species that didn't matter. The humans were shackled, scanned, and dragged through long metallic corridors of the warship. Some tried to protest. "We came to talk. We mean no harm. Why are you attacking us?" But the Zellerans ignored every word. To them, the humans weren't diplomats. They were intruders. Or worse, nuisances. Captain Rehan, though bruised and shaken, still tried to reason with the guards. "You don't have to do this. We are peaceful explorers." A cold, mechanical translation device finally responded for the first time. "Peace is irrelevant." That sentence hit harder than any blast. The prisoners were soon transported to a holding area deep within the Zelleran sector. It wasn't a prison built for dangerous criminals. It was a labor facility, dark, harsh, and designed to break the will of anyone kept inside. The aliens saw humans as weak creatures from a small planet, not worth respect or conversation. They believed Earth would simply accept the loss and stay quiet. Back on Earth, however, the reaction was the opposite. Anger spread like wildfire. People shouted in the streets. Leaders from every major nation held emergency meetings. The image of the Astronine exploding became a symbol of betrayal. Humanity had reached out with open hands, only to be struck down mercilessly. It wasn't just an attack, it felt like humiliation on a global scale. The Galactic Council, a distant organization humans had never interacted with before, finally sent a message. But instead of sympathy, they offered excuses. They claimed the Zelleran Empire was territorial and that Earth should have studied the political situation more carefully. In simple terms, they blamed the humans for being attacked. This added fuel to the fire. Ordinary people felt insulted. Scientists were furious. Even peaceful leaders found themselves demanding accountability. The Council's dismissive attitude made things worse. They treated humanity like a small, unimportant species that didn't deserve protection or respect. But humanity had never been the type to stay quiet after injustice. Throughout history, whenever humans were pushed too far, they pushed back harder. And now, the entire planet shared the same burning determination. They would not allow the Astronine to be the forgotten victims of alien cruelty. They would not allow the galaxy to ignore them or treat them as weak newcomers. In the following days, Earth united in a way it never had before. Countries that once argued now cooperated. Scientists shared technology across borders. Engineers worked day and night. For the first time, humanity wasn't thinking as separate nations, they were thinking as one species. The attack on Astronine had changed everything. The Zelleran Empire believed humanity was powerless. They thought humans lacked the technology, strength, and courage to respond. They expected Earth to hide, to fear, to stay silent. They believed humans would remain a tiny voice in a large galaxy. But they didn't understand humanity at all, because humans had survived wars, disasters, and hardships on their own dangerous planet. They had grown resilient, clever, and stubborn. And now, with their peaceful mission destroyed and their people taken, that resilience turned into something sharper, determination that would shake the galaxy in ways no alien empire had predicted. The galaxy didn't expect humanity to strike back, but they were about to learn, very soon, and very clearly. The days after the Astronine attack were some of the darkest in human history. The world was shocked, confused, and angry all at once. People gathered around screens hoping for news of survivors, but none came. Governments released statements, but they all said the same thing: we don't know why this happened. Ordinary men and women felt helpless, watching their species get insulted and ignored by a galaxy that seemed far more advanced and far more cruel. In the middle of this chaos, humanity slowly began to realize a painful truth. They had always imagined aliens as wise, peaceful beings who would welcome them. But the Zelleran attack proved something different. The galaxy wasn't full of gentle scholars and friendly beings. There were empires out there, empires with weapons far stronger than anything humans had ever built. And worse than that, those empires didn't even think twice before attacking. They didn't see humans as equals, or even as a threat. They saw them as nothing. This realization didn't crush humanity. It awakened something. People from different countries, cultures, and beliefs suddenly found themselves united by the same burning feeling. We will not be treated like this. We will not be weak. Even the most peaceful scientists, the ones who had dreamed of shaking alien hands, felt anger boiling inside them. The leaders of Earth called an emergency global summit, something that had never been done on such a scale. Presidents, commanders, diplomats, scientists all sat together in one giant hall, their faces tense and serious. Usually, these meetings would be filled with arguments and slow discussions. But this time, something was different. No one was fighting each other. Every person in that room understood that humanity now had only two options: stand together or fall alone. The decision was made in just a few hours. A new organization was formed, the Earth Defense Coalition. It wasn't controlled by one country or one government. It belonged to the entire planet. Every nation contributed its best scientists, engineers, soldiers, and leaders. For the first time, humans were thinking like a single species. Their goal was simple but powerful: defend Earth, rescue the Astronine survivors, and make sure no alien empire ever dared to attack humanity again. But there was a huge problem. Earth was technologically far behind. Alien ships could travel at speeds humans couldn't imagine. Their weapons could crack through metal like paper. Their scanners could detect things light years away. Humans didn't just need to catch up, they needed to leap forward. And that was when something incredible happened. The debris from the attack had included small fragments of Zelleran technology. At first it seemed useless, just twisted metal and burnt circuits. But when scientists began studying the pieces, they discovered something shocking. Zelleran tech wasn't as mysterious as everyone had thought. It was advanced. Yes, but it followed patterns that human engineers could understand once they looked at it from the right angle. Dr. Aisha Patel, a young engineer from Mumbai, was the first to break through a power conversion module. When she opened it, she laughed out loud in disbelief. "They think we can't figure this out," she said, "but they've underestimated the human brain." Her excitement spread like wildfire. Soon, labs across the world buzzed day and night. Engineers pulled apart alien circuitry, connecting it with human systems. Scientists experimented with energy crystals, warp signatures, and shielding layers. Many attempts failed, but every failure taught them something new. Humanity was learning faster than anyone expected even themselves. Some people wondered why the Zelleran Empire would ignore Earth after attacking Astronine. The answer was simple, and it only added to the insult. The Zellerans believed humans couldn't fight back. They saw Earth as a primitive, noisy world too busy fighting its own problems to understand galactic matters. In their eyes, Earth was a small planet with limited technology and emotional, unpredictable people. Not a threat, just a nuisance. Even the Galactic Council, a group of advanced alien species that supposedly maintained peace, didn't take humans seriously. When Earth demanded answers, the Council acted bored and dismissive. They said the Zelleran Empire was allowed to protect its borders. They said Earth should have asked permission before entering alien space. They said the Council didn't want to get involved in small territorial disputes. A small territorial dispute, that was what they called the destruction of Earth's first peaceful mission. The Council's response only fueled humanity's determination. It became clear that if humans wanted justice, they would have to claim it themselves. They couldn't rely on other species to protect them. They had to become powerful enough that no one dared to ignore them again in secret underground facilities. Work progressed at incredible speed. Entire cities of engineers worked in shifts so that progress never stopped, not even for a minute. Scientists who had once competed now shared information freely. Human creativity, flexibility, and stubbornness became their greatest strengths. Humanity was not as advanced as the aliens, but they were something far more dangerous, innovative. While alien technology followed strict designs and rules, humans began mixing alien equipment with their own inventions, creating weapons and ships that no one in the galaxy had ever seen before. Strange hybrids of metal, plasma, electricity, and human improvisation. One of the first breakthroughs was the energy shield. Zelleran shields were smooth and perfect, but they had a weakness: they couldn't handle sudden bursts of irregular power. Humans discovered this by accident when a young technician, Diego Ramos, overloaded a stabilizer during a test. The shield flickered, then strengthened, then flickered again, creating a strange uneven field. It looked chaotic, unstable, but when they tested it against a high-power laser, the laser bent and scattered. Humans quickly understood what the Zellerans never expected. Their own shield designs could be improved by human chaos. Ship designs evolved next. Human ships used to be slow and heavy, built more for survival than battle. But with alien technology integrated into their engines, they could now travel faster and farther. The new engines screamed loudly, vibrating every bolt and plate, but they worked, and the humans didn't care if it was messy or loud, only that it got the job done inside one of the largest hangars on Earth. Captain Rehan Malik's closest friend, Commander Arif Suleiman, stared at a prototype ship with wide eyes. "The aliens have no idea what's coming," he whispered. "They think we are weak. They're wrong." Meanwhile, the captured Astronine crew suffered quietly in the Zelleran labor facility. The Zellerans forced them to work long hours in harsh conditions. They treated the humans like creatures beneath them, like insects. But the prisoners didn't break. They supported each other. They shared stories of Earth, of their families, of their dreams. These small moments of humanity kept them alive. They didn't know it yet, but their suffering was fueling something far larger than the Zellerans understood. Earth had not forgotten them. Earth was preparing to bring them home. The galaxy continued to ignore Earth during this time. Other alien species thought humans were too emotional, too chaotic, too inexperienced. They whispered among themselves that Earth was just another young species that would learn its place soon enough. But they didn't understand what made humans different. Humans evolved on a deadly planet filled with storms, predators, diseases, and disasters. They had survived countless wars, rebuilt civilizations, and invented miracles from almost nothing. They had imagination, courage, stubbornness, and a strange ability to grow stronger when pushed to the edge. And now humanity had something else, a reason to fight. Months passed, then a year, and when the Earth Defense Coalition finally revealed the results of their work, even the scientists who built the ships couldn't believe what they saw. Lined up across giant hangars were vessels unlike anything in human history. They were not polished or elegant like alien ships. They were rugged, powerful, and filled with weapons and systems that shouldn't have worked but did. This was humanity's first interstellar fleet. It didn't have a name yet, but soon the galaxy would know it as something that would change everything. The Zellerans still believed humans were rebuilding their little planet, trying to fix their broken morale. They didn't monitor Earth closely. They didn't prepare for retaliation. They didn't imagine that a species they saw as weak would move from powerless to dangerous in such a short time. The galaxy didn't expect humanity to evolve so fast. They didn't expect humans to learn alien technology. They didn't expect humans to unite, but they were about to find how big their mistake was. And when the first human ships rose into the sky loud, powerful, and burning with a fire the galaxy had never seen, the real story began. The day humanity launched its first interstellar fleet was one that no one on Earth would ever forget. The sky over every major spaceport glowed with fire as the new ships lifted off, shaking the ground beneath them. They were loud, rough, and nothing like the smooth, silent alien vessels the galaxy used. But inside those metal bodies lived the spirit of a species that had finally decided to rise. People all over the world cheered, cried, and prayed as they watched the first fleet rise into the darkness of space. Journalists called it the Phoenix Fleet because it symbolized humanity rising from the ashes of the Astra 9 tragedy. Soldiers called it the Strike Fleet. Engineers simply called it our miracle. But no matter the name, every human on Earth understood the truth. This was the beginning of their answer, their first step toward justice, their first punch back at the galaxy that had mocked and ignored them. Captain Rayhan Malik was not on Earth to see the launch. He was in a Zelleran labor facility, still alive but growing weaker by the day. He didn't know that humans had built a fleet. He didn't know Earth had united. He didn't know revenge was rising like a storm behind him. All he knew was that his crew was suffering, and he had to keep them alive. Every day, he gathered them quietly, whispering encouragement, reminding them of home, telling them they would not die forgotten. These small moments of hope kept the prisoners from breaking completely. And far away, among the stars, the fleet that would save them was approaching. The Phoenix Fleet entered Zelleran space without ceremony. There was no warning sent, no greetings broadcast, no peaceful message. Humanity had already tried peace and had been burned for it. Now it was time for something else, something the galaxy wasn't prepared for. The fleet's first test came sooner than expected. As the human ships crossed the border, Zelleran patrol sensors activated. Within minutes, a Zelleran patrol fleet appeared. 3 ships, sleek and deadly, the same kinds that had attacked Astra 9. Their crews had no idea what was coming. They believed humans were still weak, still confused, still crawling behind the rest of the galaxy. To them, human ships were outdated, slow and barely capable of interstellar travel, so when they detected strange human vessels entering their territory, they didn't even consider talking. They prepared to attack immediately. Inside the leading Zelleran ship, an officer sent a cold message to the incoming fleet: unregistered species. You are violating Zelleran territory. Power down your engines and surrender. On the human flagship, Commander Arif Solman stood at the front of the bridge. He listened calmly and then smiled, but not out of amusement. It was the smile of someone who had been waiting for this moment since the day he watched Astra 9 explode on the news. He didn't reply with greetings. He didn't reply with threats. He simply gave an order: weapons online. The human ships roared to life. Their engines growled. Their weapons systems whirred and clicked, preparing to fire. These were not elegant alien weapons. They were human-made, improvised, built from reverse-engineered alien tech, and improved through raw creativity. They didn't look beautiful, but they were powerful. The Zelleran fleet fired first. Bright beams of energy shot across space, hitting the human ships. The alien officers expected the human shields to collapse instantly. They expected human metal to melt. They expected the fleet to break and scatter like frightened animals. But something extraordinary happened. The energy shields flickered wildly, glowing unevenly just as they had during early tests, but they held. The Zellerans were confused. Their weapons were designed to break stable shields, but humans had built unstable shields that shifted, pulsed, and bent in ways alien physics didn't predict. The Zelleran beams couldn't find a weak point. Every time they hit, the shield changed shape again. The aliens fired again, harder this time, but the results were the same. Inside the human flagship, someone shouted excitedly, "It's working. They can't break us." Commander RF didn't smile this time. He only gave one command: fire. Human weapons erupted. They didn't fire clean beams or precise missiles. They fired bursts of mixed human-alien energy, unpredictable blasts, rotating projectiles wrapped in unstable plasma fields, things no alien engineer would ever approve, but they hit like thunder. The first Zelleran ship's shield cracked in seconds. The second was thrown off course. The third tried to retreat but couldn't outrun the human fleet's boosted engines. One by one, the alien ships exploded into burning fragments. The battle was over in less than 3 minutes across the galaxy. The news would spread like a shockwave. A young, so-called primitive species had just defeated a Zelleran patrol fleet, something no new species had ever done. The Zellerans, who prided themselves on their strength and superiority, were left stunned. This wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a lucky shot. It was a message. Humanity was no longer the weak newcomer. The human fleet didn't stop. They pushed deeper into Zelleran space. On their path were communication outposts, refueling stations, shield satellites, each one designed to maintain Zelleran power. The humans destroyed or disabled them with surprising ease. Every battle taught them something new. Every encounter sharpened their weapons. Every victory made them stronger. Alien species across the region began picking up signals of the fights. Some watched quietly in disbelief. Others panicked, thinking the Zellerans had started a war with another great power. But when they discovered that the attackers were humans, those same humans that Council mocked, they didn't know what to think. Meanwhile, in the labor facility, Captain Rehan and the surviving crew had no idea the tide was turning. They noticed small changes. The guards seemed more tense. The alarms around the facility went off more frequently, and whispers passed among the alien soldiers. Something was wrong. Something big. But none of them imagined it had anything to do with Earth. Captain Rehan kept telling his people, "Stay strong. Hold on, we will find a way." He didn't know that the way was already on its way to them, slicing through Zelleran fleets like a storm. As the Phoenix fleet approached the facility region, the alien commanders finally realized this wasn't a small raid. It wasn't a stolen ship. It wasn't pirates. It was war. Human war. And they had no idea how to handle it for decades. The Zelleran Empire had fought predictable enemy species with set tactics, controlled strategies, and rigid fleets. But humans were not predictable. Their ships didn't move in neat formations. Their weapons didn't behave like normal weapons. Their strategies changed mid-battle. Their pilots took risks no alien would dare. Their engineers patched battle damage with improvised solutions that shouldn't work but somehow did, and their determination burned hotter than anything the Zellerans had ever faced. After losing multiple outposts, the Zelleran High Command made a decision. They sent one of their elite fleet ships far larger and more advanced than the patrol units to stop the humans. The elite fleet intercepted the humans near a storm-filled nebula. The Zelleran commander expected the humans to retreat. Instead, the humans charged straight at them, engines screaming. The battle that followed became legendary. Human ships zigzagged through laser storms, spinning wildly and changing speeds unpredictably. They used the nebulous gas clouds to hide and ambush. They overloaded their own engines just to gain an extra second of speed. They turned damaged ships into explosive traps. Every move was reckless, dangerous, and pure chaos. And it worked. Alien strategy manuals had no answer for chaos after a brutal fight. The elite fleet retreated in shock. They had never been forced to retreat before, not by any species, let alone by humans. Words spread quickly across the galaxy. Humanity has arrived. Humanity is fighting back. Humanity cannot be stopped. Some species cheered quietly, remembering their own oppression under the Zelleran Empire. Others feared what humanity would become. But all of them finally understood that Earth was not weak. They were not fragile. They were not afraid. Humanity had just reshaped the balance of power in the galaxy, and this was only the beginning. The Phoenix fleet, now stronger and more confident than ever, moved toward the facility where Captain Rehan and his crew were imprisoned. With every battle, every destroyed blockade, every stunned Zelleran commander, humanity moved closer to rescue. The Zellerans had attacked a peaceful ship. They had treated humans like dust. They had dismissed Earth as a small voice in a large galaxy now. That small voice had become a roar, and the galaxy had no choice but to listen. The Zelleran labor facility where Captain Rehan and his crew were held had always been a place of fear. The prisoners worked long hours, guarded by soldiers who believed they were superior in every way, that humans were forced to lift heavy containers, repair dangerous machinery, and clean toxic areas without proper protection. Many had fallen sick. Some had grown weak. All of them felt the crushing weight of hopelessness every single day. Yet despite all this, Captain Rehan did everything he could to keep his people alive. He walked among them, whispering words of strength. He encouraged them to rest when they could. He shared whatever small food he received. He tried to protect them from harsh punishments. The guards despised him for this. They saw leadership as something only their own species deserved. But Rehan never stopped. Hope, he knew, was the only thing stronger than fear. For months, the facility remained quiet, routine, cold. But then, one night, everything changed. A loud alarm echoed through the metal walls. Red lights flashed everywhere. Guards ran down the hallways shouting orders. Prisoners lifted their heads in confusion. No one knew what was happening. It wasn't work hours. It wasn't inspection time. Something big had gone wrong. Captain Rehan stepped closer to the bars of his cell. He tried listening carefully. The guards' voices trembled as they shouted, "Enemy fleet approaching. Unknown signature detected. Prepare defensive lines." Unknown signature. That phrase struck Rehan like lightning. His heart raced. Could it be Earth? Could humans have somehow found them? It seemed impossible. The last time he saw Earth, humanity had no fleet, no advanced weapons, nothing that could stand against the Zell. Yet something inside him whispered that the impossible had become possible. A guard suddenly slammed a metal baton against the bars. "Back away from the gate," he barked. His voice was filled with fear, not authority. Captain Rehan didn't move immediately. He kept looking into the hallway, trying to get even the smallest hint of what was coming. The guard struck the bars again, and finally Rehan stepped back. But his eyes held a spark they hadn't shown in months. Far out in space, the Phoenix fleet was closing in. Commander R.F. Sulman stood at the front of the human flagship. staring at the holographic map of the facility. His heart was pounding with emotions he couldn't fully describe: anger, determination, and something deeper, the responsibility to bring his friend home. Behind him, dozens of officers prepared weapons, adjusted shields, and coordinated attack positions. "We've destroyed every blockade," a pilot reported. "We're clear to approach the facility." RF nodded. "Begin final approach. Inform all ships, no mistakes. The prisoners are inside that facility. We will not lose a single one." The human fleet moved like wolves, sensing their prey. Zelleran ships scrambled to defend, but their movements were chaotic. They had already lost too many battles to understand human strategy. They fired blindly, hoping to stop the incoming storm. But the humans were faster, smarter, and more determined than ever. Inside the facility, the ground shook as explosions echoed through the structure. Dust fell from the ceiling. The prisoners panicked. Some covered their ears. Others grabbed each other. Captain Rehon stood tall, trying to calm them. "It might be rescuers," he said softly. "Stay together. Don't lose hope." A loud blast hit the east wing of the facility. The lights flickered. A heavy security door crashed to the ground, sparking wildly. Guards rushed around in fear, shouting commands that no one followed. Captain Rehon pressed his hand against the cold bars. His heart felt like it would burst. He didn't know who was attacking, but he knew one thing. The Zelleran Empire was finally afraid. In the sky above the facility, human ships began their descent. With engines burning bright and weapons blazing, they cut through Zelleran defenses like blades through cloth. Alien soldiers fired desperately, but human shields absorbed the hits. Human missiles struck with unpredictable energy bursts, knocking down defensive towers and communication arrays. Commander Orif shouted, "Deploy ground teams. Secure all entry points. Get our people out." Drop pods launched from the human ships, roaring through the atmosphere like falling stars. They slammed into the ground outside the facility, breaking open to reveal armored human soldiers. These weren't elite genetic warriors or engineered fighters like the aliens used. They were ordinary humans: firefighters, former pilots, engineers, rescue volunteers trained quickly but fiercely motivated, and they fought with everything they had. The ground outside the facility became a battlefield. Human soldiers charged forward, dodging plasma shots, using their new hybrid shields to block attacks. Their weapons, built from alien parts and human creativity, fired in unpredictable patterns that confused the Zelleran troops. Inside the facility, Captain Rehon heard the fight growing closer. The explosions were no longer distant. They were just outside the walls. Then suddenly, a section of the corridor collapsed after a huge blast. Smoke rushed into the hallway. Guards ran in panic. One guard tried to seal the area, but before he could activate the door, a human soldier crashed through the smoke, slammed him aside, and shouted, "We found them. The humans are here." Those words sent waves of disbelief and joy through the prisoners. Some fell to their knees, crying. Others pressed their hands against the bars, whispering prayers of thanks. Captain Rehon felt tears burning in his eyes. Humanity had come. His people had not been forgotten. The ground team rushed toward the cells. Within minutes, they broke open the locks and freed the prisoners. Some were able to walk. Others collapsed into soldiers' arms. Captain Rehon stepped out slowly, his body weak but his spirit blazing with pride. A soldier saluted him. "Captain, Commander Arif is waiting outside. We need to get you out." Rehon nodded, finding his strength. "Let's go." As the group moved through the facility, they passed scenes of destruction: damaged corridors, fallen guards, shattered doors, but every sight felt like victory. Every broken piece of Zelleran machinery was a reminder that humanity had risen. Outside, the battle was still intense. Zelleran reinforcements were arriving, but they were disorganized. They couldn't understand how the humans had breached their strongest defenses. They couldn't understand how their elite forces were falling. Fear spread through their ranks like fire. Commander Arif stood behind a protective barrier, giving orders while watching for familiar faces among the rescued. When he finally saw Captain Rehon walking toward him, supported by two soldiers, he froze. For a moment, the war around him faded away. He rushed forward and pulled Rehon into a tight embrace. "You're alive," Arif whispered. Rehon gave a weak laugh. "Of course. You think I'd die before seeing what you've done to our ships?" The soldiers around them laughed softly, even in the middle of the chaos. But their reunion was cut short by a violent tremor. A massive Zelleran warship, the largest they had seen so far, was descending from the sky, charging its weapons. A soldier shouted, "Commander, the main cannon is powering up." Arif grabbed Rehon's arm. "We need to go. Now." Human ships moved to intercept the giant warship. The sky exploded in flashes of green and blue as both sides fired. Human shields flickered wildly under the pressure, struggling to hold. The alien cannon was growing brighter, preparing a shot that would wipe out everyone on the ground. Captain Rehon looked up, his face pale. "That cannon, it will destroy everything," Arif nodded, "unless we stop it." Before anyone could speak, a human ship, a smaller, damaged vessel, broke formation and shot upward directly toward the enemy warship. Its engines burned hotter than they were ever designed to. Flames trailed behind it. The pilot inside whispered a final message. For Earth, the ship slammed into the alien cannon just as it fired. The explosion shook the sky. The Zelaran warship's main weapon shattered into 1,000 burning pieces. The huge vessel lost balance and began falling. Human ships pulled back as the giant crashed into the distant ground with a thunderous roar. Silence fell for a moment. Then the human soldiers raised their fists and shouted in victory. The battle was over. Prisoners were safe. Humanity had won. Captain Rehan looked around at the soldiers, the smoke, the broken alien machines, and the burning sky. A deep emotion filled his heart. Not fear, not sadness. Pride. The galaxy had underestimated humans. They thought humans were weak, too emotional, too inexperienced. They thought Earth would stay quiet after being attacked. But Earth had replied with fire. And now, as the human fleet prepared to leave with the rescued prisoners, one thing became clear. This was not the end. This was the beginning of humanity's rise. Humanity's arrival at the Zelaran capital was not loud or dramatic like most wars in history. It was quiet, controlled, and deeply confident. The massive human fleet moved through the dark space like a wall of iron and fire, but there was no chaos inside the ships. Everyone knew their goal. Everyone understood the mission. They were not here to destroy a species. They were here to end a long chain of suffering, rescue the last group of prisoners, and make the galaxy understand what happens when someone hurts humanity. Across the galaxy, every species was watching the live transmission. Some watched with fear, some with hope, and some with awe. For centuries, the Zelarans had been considered untouchable. They were one of the strictest and most arrogant regimes in known space. And now, for the first time, their capital was surrounded by a fleet from a planet they once mocked. In the command ship, Commander Arya Sandoval stood in silence, looking at the glowing sphere of the Zelaran homeworld. She had fought in every major battle of the campaign. She had seen villages destroyed, prisoners tortured, and entire species forced into obedience. She had also seen humans refuse to give up, refuse to bow, and refuse to fight dirty. That was the part that surprised the galaxy the most. Humans were strong, fierce, and terrifying in battle, but they still had rules, compassion, and a strong sense of justice. She opened a communication channel directly to the Zelaran leadership. Her voice was calm but carried the weight of an entire world behind it. Surrender peacefully. No planet will be harmed, and no civilian will be touched. But if you choose to resist, she paused. You already know what humanity can do. There was a long silence. On the Zelaran side, panic filled the council chamber. Their empire had collapsed system by system. Their military had been crushed by strategies they didn't understand. And worst of all, species they once enslaved were now joining the humans willingly, offering support, weapons, and secret information. The Zelarans had never experienced a rebellion this large. For the first time in their history, they were afraid. High Chancellor Rymax tried to maintain his pride, but even he felt the fear growing. He asked, "What does humanity want?" The reply came quickly: the release of all prisoners, an end to your forced labor system, and full accountability for the attack on our people. The Zelarans were shocked. They expected demands for territories, resources, or complete surrender. Instead, the humans wanted freedom and justice, not power. The galaxy saw this as a turning point. Humans fought harder than anyone. They could have burned the capital to ash, but they didn't. Meanwhile, on the ground, the last surviving humans from the Astronine mission were held in an underground facility. Captain Rehan Malik was among them. He had survived torture, illness, and years of forced labor, yet his spirit remained unbroken. When the facility guards heard the alarms announcing the human fleet's arrival, chaos erupted. Some guards tried to flee, some tried to hide, and a few, filled with desperation, attempted to kill the prisoners before the humans could rescue them. But the prisoners fought back, using tools, debris, or even their bare hands. They knew help was near. Minutes later, the door exploded inward, and a team of armored human soldiers rushed in. Rian stood blinking in disbelief. For years he had imagined this moment, but he never truly expected to see Earth's soldiers again. One of the rescuers removed her helmet and smiled. "Captain Rehan Malik, Earth has come for you." The entire room went silent. Some prisoners cried, others laughed, and a few simply fell to their knees, overwhelmed. For the first time in years, they felt the warmth of safety. While prisoners across the capital were being rescued, the Zelaran leadership finally announced their surrender. No grand speech, no last stand, no dramatic fight, just a simple message broadcast across the galaxy: we surrender to humanity. Humanity accepted the surrender without celebration. They treated the Zelarans with controlled strength and firm respect. They did not punish civilians, destroy cities, or take slaves, something the Zelarans themselves had done to many planets. This shocked the galaxy even more. Mercy from the stronger side was rare, almost unheard of. After the surrender, humanity held a meeting on neutral ground with representatives from liberated worlds, the Galactic Council, and even a few Zelaran officials. The Council was embarrassed. They had ignored the original attack on the Astronine and dismissed humanity as young and emotional. Now, after seeing the destruction of the Zelaran Empire and the liberation of thousands, they realized how wrong they had been. The council chair spoke first. Earth, we owe you an apology. But Commander Arya replied, we did not fight for apologies. We fought for our people, and for every species who never had the chance to fight for themselves. Those words spread through the galaxy like wildfire. Across hundreds of systems, aliens who had once feared humans now admired them, and species who had been bullied by stronger empires now believed that someone out there would stand up for them. The Zellerans were forced to dismantle their forced labor system. They freed every prisoner. They signed agreements promising fairness and peace, and for the first time in centuries, their citizens felt relief instead of fear. Days later, humanity honored the captives of the Astronine. A ceremony was held at Earth's United Space Center. Survivors stood on the stage as thousands watched from the ground and millions watched from their homes. When Captain Rayhan Malik walked forward, the crowd fell silent. His body was weak, but his voice carried strength. We were forgotten by the galaxy, he said, but we were never forgotten by Earth. Humanity does not abandon its own. And now the galaxy knows this. His words became legendary. Across different planets, schools taught about the battles, the liberation, and the final lesson. Humanity strikes back only when necessary, but when they do, they strike with intelligence, unity, and purpose. Over time, the Galactic Council rewrote its laws to protect young species. Powerful empires became more careful, and a new alliance formed, one built not on fear, but on respect. Humans were no longer seen as a minor species. They were protectors, warriors, builders, and diplomats. They were deathworlders, but not monsters. They were powerful, but not tyrants. They had the strength to crush an empire, but the heart to choose mercy. And so the galaxy learned a lesson they would never forget. Attacking humanity was a mistake. Underestimating humanity was a disaster. But standing with humanity, that was the beginning of a new era of peace. From that day onward, every empire, every council, and every species remembered the same truth: if you strike at humans, they will rise stronger, faster, and with a power no one saw coming. And yet, when victory is in their hands, they choose justice over cruelty, mercy over revenge, and unity over domination. That was the legacy humanity left on the galaxy. A legacy born from pain, shaped by strength, and remembered with respect.